Hi, everyone. This is Diana Zaya, founder of Maverick Systems. I am hosting a webinar for you today to talk about agent recruitment. And more specifically, we're going to talk about the 7 components or technologies that you need to think about adopting into your firm to accelerate your agent recruitment outcomes. I do have a deck teed up, and this is going to be a lengthier webinar because we really get into it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll just jump right into it. So we're talking about using technology to build ease into your recruitment process. They say the success of your hiring depends on the strength of your recruiting process, and real estate agent recruitment is no different. I find that the firms that really struggle the most are the firms that have not adopted the right technologies or have not adopted technology at all. Or I do find that many companies are adopting technology at an accelerated pace, and these technologies are just not working together. So that disjointed and disconnected system is actually causing them more harm, and they're spending more money, not getting the results that they want. So we know agent recruitment has become fiercely competitive. In fact, in a recent span of 10 years, agent departures from one firm to another have doubled. Where 12% of agents were making a move in 2011, today in recent times it's jumped to 24% that are making a move from one firm to another. In fact, we know agents are more mobile than ever. A recent study that we conducted internally on the data that we have across the nation found that every year a typical real estate firm can expect about 20% of their annual sales volume to exit the firm. And this is in the form of agents that are either leaving the business, more commonly, they're heading to a competitor. So agent recruitment needs to be prioritized for every firm just to maintain their current levels and revenues. However, it's just become, as I mentioned, increasingly difficult to be able to do so. Many brokers come to us because they're frustrated. We're a little bit newer, younger company, and they've tried all of the larger or more well-known companies that have overpromised, underdelivered. And so generally they're coming to us by word of mouth or through referrals, and they're coming extremely frustrated. And so we're trying to use technology to take that frustration out of the process for them. My goal in today's webinar is to get you to believe that blending technology and data analytics with the soft skills that our industry is so famous for can actually lead to extraordinary agent recruitment outcomes. And I'm going to talk more on the tech side of things, and go through some of the tools all of the tools that we provide and some of the tools that you can start to implement right away. Certainly, you don't need to do all of them all at once, but we can build a system over time that works for you. So who this webinar is for, certainly it's for the beginners. If you just started recruiting or you have never recruited, this webinar is for you. We're going to give you a really good foundation of, or a foundational understanding of where you can begin and what you can implement right away. If you are an experienced recruiter, your company's been doing this for years, you guys have seen some success with it, this webinar is for you as well. We're going to show you some advanced sales tools and features that you can implement into your recruitment process that are going to just take it to the next level. I'm going to cover 7 components. I'm going to build on them over time. So where we start with sort of like that number 1 feature is going to be the most foundational, going to more sophisticated and advanced tools. A little intro about me. As I mentioned, I'm the founder of Maverick Systems, founded the company about a year and a half ago. Prior to that, I was part of the founding team with another data analytics company serving the real estate industry. During my time there, I had the unique opportunity to work with hundreds of real estate brokerages as well as teams, and had a really good firsthand view of how they were handling agent recruitment, and how they essentially took somebody from being a complete stranger to becoming one of their agents, and everything in between. So how they did it, who did it, what tools they used, what worked, what didn't work. And from that, I was able to identify some very common roadblocks and gaps across the board. Didn't matter if it was a large brokerage, a small branded indie, didn't matter. They all had generally the same struggles. And that really revolved around, if I had to sum it up, I would say technology, adopting technology and getting past having disjointed, fragmented systems that didn't talk to one another. So essentially creating a system that worked for them rather than many, many different platforms that all sort of converged together and made life more difficult. So the first thing that you do want to get your hands on right away if you are just starting out in agent recruitment is some really good production stats. Agent production data would encompass things like total sales volume, total sides sold, year-over-year changes and trends. Um, Generally, if you're just starting out and you're sourcing data from like the MLS, for example, your data set is going to be extremely limited. However, you can source from data vendors like Maverick Systems. Our data sets are generally much more robust. Some vendors still have pretty trim data sets. Maverick Systems are offering about 70 data points on every agent within your market, as well as your own agents. So the more data you have, the more fun things we can do in terms of creating personas and doing some segmentation. So like with our data set, we offer a lot of market insights. So we can tell you what markets agents are operating in, how much of their business is done there, even where they rank in that market. Which brings me to our next point. Once we've got some agent production data, we want to be able to create personas. So in marketing, personas or buyer personas are semi-fictional representations of a company's target market or ideal buyer. Likewise, in recruitment, we can create agent personas based upon the types of agents that would be a good fit for your firm. And at Maverick, we have about 10 different personas that we create. We do have an agent persona cheat sheet. At the end of this webinar, you're going to get our contact information. If you do want that cheat sheet, please email into our office and we'll send that out to you at no cost. But we can create personas based upon different data points like years in business or total sales volume. Um, Once you've got those personas created, then you can start to tailor your overarching marketing message to that very distinct persona. For example, the way that you're going to market to a new agent and the way that you speak to them and your messaging to them is going to be vastly different than the way that you would engage with a top producer or a team leader. So getting those personas right and segmenting them out in your database is going to really help you produce more resonant messaging. Um, and I mentioned having a more robust data set. If you have a really trim data set, you can segment on pretty much years in business or volume. And even some MLS data sets are not going to give you years in business. So it's like pretty much it would be sales volume. Are they up? Are they down? With our data set, because it is so robust, we can do a lot more fun things with it and get a lot better insights. So I can pull together 3, 4, 5 data points on an agent and be able to identify if I think they're going to be an up and comer in the industry, or if they are likely to either leave your firm or leave their current firm. We can even identify if they're likely to wash out of the business. And we can identify some very specific coaching opportunities internally just using the data that we have. But I would say data is your starting point. The more robust your data set is, the more fun we can have with it. The next component that you definitely want to think about would be having a CRM. And I know this is like a really touchy point for many people. Some people love CRMs, some people hate CRMs. I am of the camp that I love them. I love a good CRM. I hate a bad CRM. Um, but I would say a good CRM is one that will integrate with your data. That's probably the most critical component. I know a lot of people come to us that have a data provider and they have some sort of CRM, whether they're adapting an agent CRM for recruitment or they're using some like a lot smaller, maybe a less expensive tool, and they're importing that agent data into that CRM. Well, I've got to tell you that comes with a tremendous amount of complexity that people don't really take into consideration. So for example, if you're importing data, any list that you create, any segmentation you do is going to be static, not dynamic, because that data is not updating constantly. So there you could create theoretically a list based on production parameters, but if you don't update that data consistently, over time, the people that met those parameters or that criteria no longer meet that criteria. Some are going to drop off, some are going to accelerate. And so that messaging is just not going to be resonant. The other thing that you have to think about is there are certain data fields that are populated one month and may zero out the next month, like active listings, for example. So if you're pulling that into your CRM, one month you can have an agent that shows a number of active listings. If that zeroes out and it's an empty field in your data set, not populated with a zero, and you try to pull that in, your CRM may not recognize that empty field and not update it. So essentially, in other words, what I'm saying is over time, the data integrity of your CRM starts to erode when there are these little nuanced things that we don't necessarily take into account. If the field type doesn't match, your system will override it and not pull that information. And so things like that, the risk of creating duplicate records is extremely high. So just a lot of complexity, but I would say look for a CRM that's integrated. We are integrated. Our CRM certainly can do all of the basic tasks and functions that you would in a CRM, like scheduling meetings, keeping track of cancellations or any meeting changes. You can schedule and complete any calls, tasks, activities. So you have all that historical where you can track it. It'll track all the emails that you sent. As well, within our platform, you have the ability to create pipelines and funnels. So we can create an agent recruitment pipeline and start to tag people as they progress through the stages of that pipeline. And it's going to allow you to have better management of all of your activities and who you're interacting with. Just sort of keeps individuals on track. So the other thing that I want to talk about is sales enablement tools. Sales enablement tools are features that are built into some CRMs that make sales teams much more efficient at closing deals. And I look at agent recruitment really as a sales and marketing function. So sales enablement tools really have their place in agent recruitment. There are many. I'm only going to cover 3 today that I personally like and I think are really helpful and beneficial to the process. The first one is sales signals. Sales signals are little notifications that can come up in your platform that tell you when a prospect in your database is interacting with any content that you may have produced. So if you make a social media post and they like it or they comment on it, it's going to bring them into your database as a lead and it's going to record the action that they took. Additionally, if you are sending emails, it can track when that email was open, if that link was clicked on, and deliver that notification to you so that your team can take timely action on any of these triggers or signals. The next tool that I want to talk about under sales enablement would be lead scoring. Lead scoring assigns a number or a score to various prospects based upon certain criteria that we preset. So that criteria can be engagement, based on engagement, or it can be based on behavior. So an engagement score would be something like they've opened your email or they've clicked on a link. And you can assign whatever value that you feel is appropriate. So you might assign 10 points if someone opens an email, but you may give them 15 or 20 if they click on the link. The behavior score is based more on um, all other actions outside of engagement. So it could be, for example, that, I'm in Chicago, we're in Cook County. So it could be that I have a real estate brokerage in Cook County and I want to recruit agents that are active in the city of Chicago or in Cook County. And so I'm going to attribute a higher score to those agents. Or it could be that I want to expand, like we've dominated Cook County, I want to expand into Lake County. And so I may attribute a higher score to agents that are producing in Lake County, but not all of them. I only want the ones that are doing above 2 million in annual production. So it will assign scores on any criteria that you want to set. And this is a super way to prioritize your team's efforts to the people they want to, that would be the best fit for your firm. So for example, if I've got an hour to make some phone calls this week, I'm traveling, I'm really tied up, but I want to get my calls in, I'm going to go ahead and select the agents that have the highest score and start my prospecting activities there because I know these are the people that are the best fit and they're the most engaged. So next I want to talk about blueprints. Blueprints are much like architectural blueprints. These represent a roadmap of how something should be constructed. So in the case of a sales blueprint, it's laying out the roadmap that your recruiters and your managers should take when they are prospecting an agent or engaging with them. But what this does is it will standardize your process across multiple offices, especially if you're a multi-office firm. And so this makes training a lot better. Your team gets much more efficient. They get better at what they're doing. And it also helps with reducing ramp up time if you were to bring in a new manager or a new recruiter, because everything is documented. The other really neat thing that we can do once you have your process documented in a blueprint, we can start to critically look at that process and identify areas where we can automate some of those steps or tasks. Which brings me to our next feature that I think should be heavily considered in putting into your recruitment program or system, which is automations and action alerts. Automations essentially use triggering events to carry out certain tasks in place of a human carrying out those tasks. So you always start with the when. When should this automation be triggered? Well, I want, for example, you could say, well, every time we have a recruiting in-person meeting with an agent, we want to automatically send them a thank you email. And so we would create that automation to send that out every time that meeting is concluded. You may also place some conditions around that. Well, if it's an agent that's newer to the business, I would like the managing broker to have a task set for them to follow up with that person and also send them an automated email. However, if it's an agent that's a veteran, they've been in business a long time, they're doing high production, I want that task to be created for our broker owner. And I don't want an automated email to be sent out. I would like the broker owner to call them. So we're going to schedule a call and notify them that that task has been created for them. We can also update fields within your platform, as well as creating and sending alerts and notifications. Some of the action alerts that are extremely popular would be getting an alert every time an agent transacts a deal, every time they co-broker a deal with somebody in your office, or every time they take a listing. And so because our data is updating daily, we can send action alerts. We can send the alert to the account owner, or we can create a task for them to follow up, or we can have an automated email sent out to that agent. For example, if somebody co-brokes a deal, you may want to have an automated email that goes out and says, hey, thanks for a smooth transaction. Have you ever considered joining us? Now, I do have some clients that like that. I recently had another client that said, I don't really feel comfortable sending out an automated email, but I would like a task to be created for me to call our agent internally and ask our internal agent what they thought of working with that outside agent. And if we got good feedback, then we would make the phone call. So we created that automation for them, and they're doing really well with it. Integrations is another consideration. So when you are building out your recruitment system, you want to start to think about what applications you can integrate with generally your CRM. Again, I want to stress having a data provider integrated with a CRM probably for me is like the hands down most critical, most important. That's where I would start, just because of the complexity around that, and the timeliness of getting that data in there and the consistency of having it updated. Other integrations that you want to think about would be a email automation tool such as MailChimp. When you are looking for an email automation tool, I would look at a tool like MailChimp that allows you to create merge fields. That way you can pull in specific agent production data into those email campaigns and have the ability to create highly personalized emails and to be able to send them at a little bit larger scale. Especially if you are segmenting your database, those segments can carry over to that email automation tool. And that way you're creating messaging that really does resonate. Integrating with your Google Calendar or your social media apps, as well as maybe your contract software. So if you have DocuSign, having that integrated within your platform is going to make things a lot more efficient. It's also going to record it in your CRM. So you'll have a historical record of everything in one central database. At Maverick Systems, we do integrate with many applications, all of the ones that you're looking at and more. So certainly call us and we can kind of talk through some of that. And finally, I would say dashboards are probably one of my favorite things to create, to look at, and to use. I use them personally in my own business. I love building them for clients. And our team is really, really adept at making recommendations. So clients will come to us and say, well, I want this type of dashboard. And we can make some really good recommendations on what else we can build into that. But really basic. I mean, if you want to see how many calls your team is making, how many meetings they're scheduling, how many meetings are no-shows, we can build a dashboard for that. Dashboards within just a click or so, you can see really high level data over time, or you can get really, really granular with it down to the day. You can see generally track inputs and outputs. So what do our activities look like toward agent recruitment? And what is the outcome of that? How many agents have we recruited? How many do we have in the pipeline? We can even track recruited GCI. So we can track recruited sales volume or what that amounts to an actual GCI that is recruited to the firm over time. So whatever period of time you want to evaluate, whether it's, month to date, year to date, year over year, we've got you covered. We can do that for you. I actually recently had a client who asked us to build out some activity dashboards. We went ahead and just put in a lead dashboard or lead component for him as well, because he has multiple lead sources. So Maverick Systems is one of his lead sources, but he's also using Indeed. They've got their website, new licensee lists. And so we wanted to track how many leads are coming from each lead source. But more importantly, I wanted to create another component that was able to not just see how many leads are coming, but are they converting? How many are actually converting? And what we found is he was actually getting a ton from Indeed that was coming in. Not a whole lot from his website, but the conversion from his website was 100%. And from Indeed, it was 0. So that sort of strategic insight can be very eye-opening. Anecdotally, you might feel like you're getting a lot of leads from a lead source, and so you'll start to pump more money into it. But when you look at the data and you find like, man, yes, it's producing a lot of leads, but we're not really closing on any of them, then you may want to rethink that expense. And so it acts as a way to better manage your business expenses as well. So we can build out some really, really insightful dashboards for our clients. Everything that I covered today is encompassed within the Maverick system. And as I mentioned, whether you're starting out or you're looking to really bring in some more sophisticated tools, we've got you covered. And we act as consultants. And so we can build something that is as complex or as simple as you would like it to be. So if you are interested in learning more, let me get you the information on that. Give me one moment. I'm going to put up a QR code here in a minute and get you the information on where you can book a meeting. You can go to our website at www.mavericksystems.com, or you can scan this QR code and schedule a discovery call with me. As I mentioned earlier, we do have an agent persona cheat sheet that has 10 different personas on it. If you email that address in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, just go ahead and ask for the free agent persona cheat sheet, and we'll get that out to you. Thanks so much for hanging with me. I really appreciate your time and hope you have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.